Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Shutonu actually. So I've been working with a very big analytics firm for the past 2 years, and I'm here to give you a take a session on the analytics with R. So basically, you know that in the industry there are basically a lot of tools available for like a statistical tool, SAS, R, Python, Scala, and all those things. A lot of them are used actually, and so the market was ruled by SAS for the like for the good number of couple of years, but it's losing its mark. Like it is like R and all those things are coming up to be more prominent, are becoming more prominent. So the reason for this is being SAS is very costly. So whereas R is like having a more or less same capabilities, but it is an open source. You can use it however you want. So this is the reason we are trying to get into more and more R. And trust me, when I'm talking from the analytics perspective, the market perspective, it is like this is the thing. So just and everyone, if you guys have any question anytime, just feel free to stop me. So now let me before starting a session, right, to make it a little more interesting. So I'll possibly tell you a story of like 2 minutes. So because just to give you a feel of what analytics is all about these days, like to what level it has reached. So in US, like it came in I read an article actually, and even knew from my seniors also that Walmart and Cisco has carried out a new initiative. Like from the analytics point of view, they are putting this pilot, actually a pilot project. What they did is they developed an app for the Walmart, and it has got some special GPS features. So whenever the app realizes that the person who is holding the phone is nearby to the store, what they do is they send that person customized like discounts. So when they are nearer to the Walmart store, they get customized discounts. Customized meaning based on their past behavior. What do they like? However, how frequently do they go? Who are the person? How many family members do they have? And all those things. So basically, using this whole data repository to attract that person to come to the store. That is like superb, like next generation stuff. So, so I guess I can have your interests now because yeah, this is the big thing, next big thing actually. So starting with linear regression. So does anyone have any questions from this story or something? Okay, I'll take that for a no. So now we'll start with linear regression. So linear regression is, we have read it from our childhood. Linear regression is something like y equals to mx plus c, and y is the dependent variable, x is the dependent variable, and c is the error term. That the error term, the variance for which it like the variance which can't be accounted for. So now what is happening is we are trying to do this. Just hold on a sec. Just hold on a sec. Okay. So we are trying to do this. We are trying to I guess all of us knows linear regression. So with the linear regression, there are definitely different types of linear regression. So we have a dependent variable, we have an independent variable, like one dependent, one independent, we call it a simple linear regression. We might have different, multiple independent variable, we'll call it multiple linear regression, multivariate linear regression. So it is like, let's not complicate things right now. We'll try a little linear regression, simple linear regression using R. So what we are trying to do is, we created a data, come again? Yes. Okay. So, okay. So linear regression is, okay. So basically what is happening is, if you want, if if I'm to describe linear regression in a very simple term, so it is predicting the the behavior, or like two variables should are having linear relationships. So okay, I'll just if I'm hoping that you guys can see my screen. I'm just creating a chart here from my this R window that I have opened. Then that will be like a better way to explain actually, like even for a person who doesn't have idea in linear regression. So mm, hmm. So here you can see that there are two variables. One is on the x-axis, one is on the y-axis. So it is like these two variables are have more or less a straight line can be drawn through them. So they have somewhat around a linear relationship. That is like a relationship which can be plotted around a straight line. So this is the reason, this is why it is called a linear regression. These two variables has got a linear relationship between them. So I guess I'm able to at least give a brief idea of what a linear regression is. So yes. That will be a very good example actually. Uh, so now moving on to the problem that I have on linear regression. So I guess all of us at least have seen pictures of alligators, that is like a kind of crocodiles. So we have created a variable. If I guess everybody can see my screen, in which I have given the length of the crocodile and the weight of the crocodile. So basically, I've created a column where I have put the length of the crocodiles and where I have put the simultaneously weight of the crocodiles. So this is the way it is created. It is like, if you can see from my screen, I've created a data frame. It is in R, the data set that has been created. It's called a data frame here. So I just click here and run. So here you can see that the data set has been created. Now after that, what I try to do is I try to plot these two variables, trying to see that what is the relationship between them, how do they come in a xy plot. So if I click here, you can see that I get this variable. So this is the weight in kgs and this is the length in meters, and this is my whole, the x-axis and the y-axis, and you can see that here. So after this, so what we try to do is, like, this is from a visual perspective, that does these two variables has got a relationship between them or not. So this is creating a scatter plot in a xy chart. After that, actually we need like a statistical confirmation also, that does these two variables statistically are related to each other or not. So for that, we have another statement, that is core, weight and length. So this statement gives me a correlation between the length and the weight of the crocodiles. So this is a statistical confirmation. I select it and I run it. So in this console window, I get here as the correlation is found to be 0.99. So what I'll give you a brief idea of what a correlation is. Correlation is basically how one variable from two variables, how are they related to each other. So the value of correlation can vary from -1 to +1. And now what happens is, so if it is towards the -1 side, that is like more than -0.8, -0.9, so it gives that there is a negative correlation. If we increase one variable, the other variable decreases. This is called a negative correlation. And if it is on the positive side, more than 0.5, 0.8, 0.7 on in this range, what we say is if we increase one variable, the other variable also increases. So this is the other side. And in the between range, near the 0 range, if we have 0.1, 0.2 or minus 0.2, 0.3, we say that these two variables are not well correlated. So we can take a threshold. It depends on the analysis that we are performing. It is like case by case specific. So now what is happening is, after I have seen, I've got the visual confirmation from the here the scatter plot and also the statistical confirmation. What I try to do is I try to create a linear model. So linear model is basically what we are trying to do here is the format in R. See, alligator.model1 equals to LM. LM in R means linear model. This is the weight. Weight is my Y, that is the dependent variable. Length is the X, that is my independent variable. And data set that we have taken is this alligator. So basically what, in a simple terms, if I am to write down here, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a things variable called Y equals to MX plus C. So I'm trying to create this thing. If you can visualize this thing to be here, this is the length here is the weight, here is the Y, and the length here is the X. So this is what we are trying to create. And after this, what we are trying to do is we are running this model, linear model. This is basically R specific. This is the syntax of creating a linear model in R, simple linear model. So we can see here it ran. After that, what is happening is, in the similar way, we create the scatter plot like this, what we have created, we run it. And after that, what we do is there is this is the format of putting the model in how, if the, in ideal scenario, if the model was, if the data was in an ideal state, how would have been the data points look? We create an AB line, and with that we put the model thing here. So we put the model inside and we run it. So now you can see there is a straight line that is going throughout the chart. So this says that in every scenario, in ideal case, the data, all the data points would have fallen on this straight line. So for future predictions also, this is my prediction line. So whatever data points I have here, in the later scenario, if I put some more X variable, and I'll get some predicted Y variable, that is weight, depending on this line. So now let's do some predictions actually. So for predictions, what we do is there is the predict function, and from here predict function we have the model thing that we generated, and now we need a new data. That is like we need to have some other point that is already not present in the data set. Now for that we take the X variable to be 5. So when we take that X variable to be 5 and we just run it, we get the value here. So that is, in ideal scenario, if the length was 5 here, now what would have been the weight is, the weight would have been 8.675. So even after creating this model, if somebody wants to see what is the kind of the statistical significance or the value of the different statistical variables that we have, what we could have done is we could have written a simple format called SUMMARY summary, and we can create here, we can write this model, and we could have just run it. So with that, what happens is all the statistical terms that I need, that is the residuals, standard deviation. So I won't go a little deep into that, but after creating this, in the industry, what is done is we put the summary option here, and then we see all the statistical values. That is how we confirm both statistically and visually that the model fits well. So this is how I like to finish the linear regression. Does anybody has any questions here?
Hello. Hello, sir. This is Viresh here. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I am able to hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, can you come up with that linear model thing once again? Means what is the need of creating that linear model, and then how that helps us in predicting the thing? That part, can you just come again?
Yes. Yes. Okay. Yes. Yeah, I'll get that to your question. So what happens is, suppose we have like the data set that we created, alligator's length and weight. So now the point comes, like, this is a very good question actually, that why do we need to predict something? Why do you need to create the model? If I've understood the question correctly. So now what happens is, suppose in future, suppose in future we know the length of an alligator. We are trying to find, we don't have its data for weight. So this is how we do it. So I'll give you a real life problem. This is kind of the problem that was taken is kind of very naive. So if we do by the real life problem, that suppose a retail store, what a retail store does is, it has got sales for the different stores that that it has, and it is, this year it has opened 10 stores more. So now at the starting of the year, it has plans to open 10 stores more, but it somewhere down the line at an overall CEO level, the CEO wants the predicted sales value. What will be during the starting of the year? He needs to have a value that what will be my sales at the end of this year. So as we know, like if we I guess that everybody goes through the newspaper, we have that quarter one forecast, quarter two forecast, quarter three forecast, and the final yearly forecast. So this forecast, right, the CEO wants to know what will be the my sales at the end of this year or end of this quarter. And the team and his team has a plan that will, this quarter will open 4 stores more. But this person, the CEO doesn't know, even the CEO doesn't know what will be the sales from the stores. So in that scenario, linear regression comes into picture. The linear regression comes into picture telling that, so in a very naive term, I have 2 stores, I am selling 100 units of a particular brand. 2 stores, 100 units of a particular brand. So again, if I increase my 2 store, again if I open 2 stores more, what will be the new sales? Right? So now what is happening is, I'm giving a nice naive term here, naive, that is opening 2 stores and it is like such linearly correlated. But let's make this independent variable a little more complex. It's not just opening the store. The factors that will come in is, in which locality is the store, how many square feet is the store, do they have a parking facility, how many people, customer service people are there, how many, like, the counters are there, how well is the AC present in the store, how many variety of products are present in the store. So all this factor will come in as the independent variable. From there we'll predict that what will be the sales of a new store. So for this reason, we need to have linear regression. So did I answer you guys your questions?
Uh,
So did you get your answer?
yeah.
Come again? Yeah.
Uh, I have one more query. Can hello?
Yeah. Just first, before telling your query, can I know your name?
Yeah,
So
this
that,
is Viresh.
okay, Viresh. Yeah, tell.
Yeah, so can there be a situation wherein there can be more than one dependent variable? Means, like in this scenario, we took considered only there is one dependent variable.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, definitely. So
uh,
basically, if you want some more variable, you just put a plus
mhm.
here and write that variable.
Okay. And another thing is, suppose you mentioned that if the correlation factor is around zero, it
Yes.
means the two variables are not very much dependent on each other.
Yes.
So in those scenarios also, do we need to plot the this one L model, linear model, and
Now,
do go for predictions?
No, I'll tell you that now what happens is in industry what happens, suppose I gave you the store example. So the store,
Mhm.
the manager, the modeling expert that their store has, analytics expert, they identify suppose 30 40 factors which might affect the sales of that particular store. Now with that, with every variable they try to correlate sales. It might be that for one particular variable the correlation is zero, right? So now what they do is they don't incorporate that factor into the model. So they just remove the model, because in ideal, in most of the cases what happens is we have more, as you mentioned correctly actually, we have more dependent variables.
Okay.
We have much more dependent variables, and correlation of every variable is tested with the with the dependent variable. So then after that what happens is whichever ones are giving very low correlation values, they are not incorporated into the model, right?
So, so can I say that more the number of dependent variable are more accurate my prediction will be?
Yes, actually, yes. So I'll tell you a real life scenario. So
Mhm.
you know that there is every year there is budget forecasts happening at a constitution level. The finance minister comes and he gives, this will be our spend, this we are expected to spend this much, these are our growth and all those things. I guess you know. So what happens is, to get that particular figure, you can incorporate whatever you want, per capita income, you can like put down a list of metrics there, right? So the more you metrics you
Sorry
put.
to interrupt you, sir. We can't hear you. I mean, your voice is very low.
Okay,
Hello, sir.
am I audible now?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Okay, so
Thank
the
you.
more, so basically in that like budget forecast and all those things, right? So the more variable you put, the more variables you put, the more accurate your results become.
Sir, it's not audible, sir.
Is it audible
Sir,
now?
it's not audible.
Is it audible now?
Yes, sir. It's audible. Yes, sir. Yes.
So are you over the phone unit? Okay. So now what happens is, the more variable, pointed correctly, right? More variable you put, the more accurate your results become. But from a practical perspective, right? From a practical point of view, there should be an end. There should be an end, that is, so that should be, and there should be an end. So now I'll tell you that, you gave a very interesting question. So if you can see my screen, there is something called that R square values. So I highlighted it in my screen. Can you see it?
Yes, sir.
So now what happens is,
Yes.
so suppose I put, in case of with one variable, so this 0.98 means that I can explain that 98% of the behavior of the dependent variable with one variable here. Just let me know if you didn't get that. So this R square value means I can explain 98% of the behavior of the dependent variable with the independent variable. That is, in terms of this question, it becomes that the weight of the alligator can be explained 98% by the length of the alligator. Did you get that?
No, sir.
Can you just be a little louder?
No,
You repeat again.
no, no. So, sorry, sir, I didn't get. Can you just come again on this part?
Okay. So now what happens is, uh, there is an alligator. There is an alligator. There's an alligator. Only by knowing its length, only by knowing its length, you can predict, you can just say that with 98% accuracy what will be its weight. Only knowing its length, you can say with 98% accuracy what will be its weight. Did you get that?
Sir, your voice is not audible, sir.
uh are you audible now? Is it
Yes, sir.
audible now?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes.
yes, so with 98% accuracy, I can say from the length of an alligator what will be its weight. With
Okay.
90, only by knowing its length, that is one variable.
Mhm.
right? So
Okay.
now if I put in more variable, if I put in more and more variable, this 98% accuracy, that is the R square value, it might increase by like 0.0001, 0.0002, like accuracy is increasing by 0.001%, point like four, like 4 zeros, then 1%. So now the rate of increasing the accuracy becomes very less. So even if it is increasing, even if I bring in more variable, I see that the accuracy of my model is not increasing that much.
Okay.
So there I realize possibly I should not put more variable into this model. And as models become more and more complicated, it becomes very computationally very problematic. Like suppose a model is taking a very long time to run. So from their perspective, like one, it becomes that how much accuracy is it increasing? From there, I possibly take down some variables, and then I realize that it is taking a very long time to run also the model. So from there, I finally come up with some optimum set of variables. From there, from those variables only I create my model. Did I answer your question, Viresh? Hello?
Now I'm clear.
Yeah, so speak up. If it is not clear, I'm able, if you didn't get any part, I'm able to, like, I'm willing to say it again once, twice, thrice, I don't mind. But this thing should be clear actually. This is a very interesting, and like this thing we face every day in the industry. So we used to ask our manager how many variables should we take. Then this was the thing that we used to get from him.
So means just to summarize thing, we can take more variable, but we need to check whether the prediction is getting change or not. If it's not changing significantly or even minutely, very much minutely, then we should keep an end to the number of dependent variables.
Yes, 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 perfectly fine. Yes,
Okay, fine. Thanks, sir.
yes, yes, yes. So, do we have any more questions? Anyone? Okay, I'll
Sir,
take this.
yeah,
Come again.
apart from these uh, regression models, what are the models that industry uses more frequently, sir?
So basically, it is more or less linear regression. Then we have something called logistic regression.
Okay.
Then we have something called time series.
Mm-hmm.
It all revolves around this, and then we have some market mix modeling. So basically, that part becomes very statistically very intensive.
Okay, sir. How
So
to?
basically, come again.
What is the basis for selecting a model? I mean, when we go for linear regression or when we go for logistic regression, what is the idea behind going for that model, particular model? Is
Okay,
it
okay.
only with the data?
No, actually, it's not with the data. It is with the outcome that you are expecting. I'll give you an example, then you can, like, it will be more clear. So in our case, right, what we did is we put alligator's length, like crocodile's length, and we predicted its weight, right? That is like a variable. You can see that from the graph here that it follows a linear regression. That my end result is also a numerical variable,
Okay.
right? So for
Yes.
this type of analysis, we use linear regression. So I gave another example also. I have 10 stores. I open 3 stores more. What will be my sales for the entire year, right?
Okay.
So this is like linear relationship that follows on. This is one for linear regression. Suppose I tell you, give you one like for logistic regression. Okay, so logistic regression, it is like, uh, in ideal scenario, it is like, will this event happen or will this event not happen? So in that case, what it is, right? Uh, you have, okay, so, okay, I'll give you this example. You see a girl, right? On the road, you see a girl. So
Okay.
you need to know, will that girl like you or won't like you,
Hmm.
right? So will that girl like you or will that girl won't like you? So
Hmm.
how do you do it? There is no linear relationship there. There is no linear relationship. So it is
Yes.
like, will that event happen in your favor or will that event won't happen in your favor,
Okay.
right? So in this case, probability comes, like what is the probability that that girl will like you or won't like you? For in that scenario, like 0 or 1, yes or no, we use logistic regression.
Okay, sir.
Okay, and there is
What
other
are
thing.
you include some of the factors which favors yes or no. Is that the
Yes,
case?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. Good enough. So there is one more thing that happens, that is time series modeling. So in time series, what happens is, suppose a sales of a particular brand of ice cream, you need to predict. Okay, for it is like you have 2 years of data and you need to predict the sales of an ice cream.
Sir, it's not audible, sir. Can you be a bit?
Is it audible now?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, so it is like you have sales for ice cream for 2 years, right? Quality Walls, let's say. So now Quality Walls comes to you and say, let's predict for the sales of this my brand of ice cream for the next 4 months. Okay, so now what happens is, you can't use linear regression, because linear regression, you can see that it's always like a linear line you will get through all the data points, if you can see from my graph that I have built. And logistic, it's like, will it sell or not? How do you predict, right? Because sales it is like, I guess you guys are aware of a sine curve in the sense, like somewhere it is increasing. So ice cream, the sales will spike in summer and the sales will go down in winter, right?
Yeah.
So in that scenario, and this event is repeated every year, right? So if in this scenario, if you try to do a linear regression, what happens is, you get a straight line through the top in, like the max point in summer to the lowest point in winter. It will try to put a straight line through it, and you won't get any meaningful predictions out of it, right? In that case, time series modeling comes into picture. This time series, that is like, somewhere it is increasing, somewhere it is decreasing. So in that scenario, time series is taken. Time series is like, suppose today's sales is like, I sell 26 units of a particular product. So the next day, my sales will either become 28 or it will become 24. So like, next day's sales is depend on today's sales. So in that scenario, that is like, the value of one point is dependent on the value of the last 2 or 3 points. It is dependent on that only. So in that scenario, time series is taken into picture. So is it clear, or should I repeat or give more examples?
It's very clear, sir. What is factor-based modeling in the sense, sir? What does a factor-based modeling?
Factor-based modeling, I didn't get that because I didn't use the term.
Okay. No. Generally, in the industry, I see some of the areas wherein it's kind of a factor-based modeling. What is factor-based modeling? Is there anything specific related to that, sir?
Factor-based modeling, that is like, that becomes a very statistically intense thing. So basically, in the ideal term, right, in the normal scenario, it is like, whatever we did, we took factor into account. It is like factor-based modeling itself. And there is one like intense thing that comes into picture when we use factor, that is something related to text analytics.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So does anyone have any more questions? Because then I'll move to a new cool feature that is coming up through analytics. That should be more interesting, actually.
Okay, sir. Okay.
So I'll move on. So in the next tab that I got, come again. Yeah. I'm not audible.
The question is that, can the confidence level vary from 95%? Usually it is taking at 95%, but can it be 94% or can it be more than 95%?
Yeah, definitely, because it totally becomes case specific. Case specific in the sense, suppose.
Hello?
I can't hear you, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah. So confidence level, right? Confidence level, it totally becomes case specific. Case specific, I'll give you 2 examples, right? So there is one product in the retail sector. There is one product in the retail sector. What you get is that product is not even sold one unit in winter, let's say, right? And in summer, it's selling in millions of units. It's selling millions of units. Now, what happens is you realize that there is something wrong. Like, how can a product which is selling totally nothing in winter selling so huge in summer? So in that case, you say that I'll take this confidence interval, possibly I'll reject this variable because it will skew up my total results. Okay. So now let's come to pharma domain. So pharma domain, a company is trying to see that how many days a person has carried on in its medicine, depending on its features. Now there we see that there is a person who like before switching over to some other medicine, there is a person who took this medicine for 1 day, right? And there is a person who took this medicine for possibly 3 years or 4 years, right? So now in this case, you have to take everything into consideration because this person ideally took that medicine for 3 or 4 years, and there is one person who took that medicine for 1 year. Whereas in retail, you can reject that telling it will skew up my result. Possibly there is something wrong with the data. I'll take only this confidence interval. And the others I'll reject because not selling in winter, and then it is selling, it's like millions of units in winter. It will move out of your confidence interval. Because somewhere down the line, if you take 95% confidence interval, it will move out of your interval because it will be like, if you know the bell curve, it will be on one corner of the bell curve. So that is the reason you will reject that. And in pharma domain, you have to take that in. So it is totally case by case specific. There is no particular set rule that you need to take this much confidence interval only. So any more questions?
Yeah, I have one question.
Yeah. I didn't get that.
Basically, I just wanted to know. Any package name in R where we can do a complete regression analysis.
Complete regression analysis meaning, so complete regression analysis meaning, what are you trying to imply?
Basically, if you are using LM here, and if I want to check VIF, so definitely I need to use car package to see VIF values.
Yes.
So similarly, I just wanted to know any complete package where we can do analysis of regression.
So basically, every package comes up with its new advantage or new feature that we have. But in normal scenario in the industry, what we do is normally we start with LM. Normally we do it with.
I'm not able to hear you properly.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
yes,
better.
So now what happens is in the industry, it's normally LM only. So because you know, right? Every day it is like, as R is an open source, new packages are coming in, right? So as new packages are coming in, they are bringing in their new set of features, and we don't even know that, like, there is no validation of that package, that is it giving right result or not. So to get that industry acceptance, it might take some time. It will take some time. Till now, it's only LM itself we know, because industry, we have a lot of confidence in this LM syntax. And we have been using it for quite some time now. So that is the reason we use LM only.
okay, good.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes.
Got it. Go ahead, please.
Okay. So now let's move on to a new like analysis that I got. Yeah, sure. Yes, actually, yes. So actually, possibly we can take that thing up in another session, perhaps, because it is statistically very intensive, and it will take a totally new type of explanation on that. And as of now, like, the details that I like to share is, seasonality is taken into consideration. So for data, like a sales data, right? For a sales data, there is a function called R in which this is called decompose. We can decompose that in trend, seasonality, and error. So we normally do that time series modeling in the seasonality part of the curve because that is the one which varies in every season. So is it clear, or do I need to go deep dive into it?
Let's move on.
Okay, fine. Now, so let's move on to the next feature of like the next analysis that we got. It is called the text analytics. People might have heard about it.
Sir, can you be a bit louder, sir?
Yeah. So it is called like text analytics. So in the industry, a lot of complex text analytics goes on. I'll start with a very simple one, so that it's like a little cool and people can relate to it. So I guess everybody is reading newspapers these days. So and we know that what is happening with the Maggie brand, right? So now what happens is the company needs to know. The company needs to know what is the public perception of my brand Maggie and the brand Nestle as a whole. So what happens is every time when a company launches a new product, it does some marketing before the product. So now the company needs to know that how are the people perceiving my products. So the age-old way that is still going on is like you stop some people before the store, ask them, tell them to give some ratings, tell them to give some points, and then you collate those survey results. And last you'll get some results out of it. But as new technologies are coming in, you see that social data, text analytics, like you can analyze that survey data also, that is one thing, and you are getting the texts from Twitter, Facebook, and all those things also. So at the end of the day, somehow with the help of a machine, you need to analyze all those things. What are the themes coming out? How are the people perceiving your brands? Are they good enough or not? So this type of thing has come into picture. And it's like very cool type of thing because it is like you have tons and tons of words written somewhere, sentences written somewhere, and I come to you and tell you, boss, what is the theme coming out of it? Are the people telling me, they are telling me your brand is good, your brand is bad? What are the negative points that they have? So this type of information we need to extract from just those texts. So for that reason only, I've written codes that is like I won't go into the topmost portion because it's like a bit techy. The topmost portion what we got is I connected with you can connect with actually with the help of an R. So from there what we do is we download data for hashtag Maggie. I guess everyone knows what is hashtag. It is like from Twitter. Twitter uses this hashtag thing to get a particular data for that particular word. So everybody like hash, Bachchan, and all those people have their own hashtags. So first I download from Twitter hashtag Maggie, like 1000 tweets of hashtag Maggie. And after that what I do is I write that in a CSV file, comma separated file. And the similar way, I download hash word from hashtag Nestle, and then I write that in a CSV file. So after that, what I try to do is I need to create a function in R. Function in R meaning that I need to rate that every sentence. Is it positive? Is it negative? Or what is the word coming out? So I need to rate those words, rate those sentences based on their themes. So for that, what I do is I create a function. So function in the sense, so if you all know, right? What I need to do is first I need to clean the sentence. Clean the sentence meaning there might be having some comma, there might be something having for some semicolon, and all those things will be there. So before analysis, I need to remove those things. So what I do here is I create for this syntax for removing a comma. This is the syntax for removing a colon. This is the syntax for just removing a space. Okay. So now what happens is I got a set of sentences where there is no comma, no full stop, nothing. It is cleared. So next, what I need to do is I need to convert all the letters, all the sentences that I have to lowercase. I don't want something to be uppercase, something to be lowercase. So what I do is this is the function in R. It is like to lower sentence. So now what I do is the next step that I come here is I need to split the sentences. Split the sentences meaning I need to split the sentences based on every word should be separate. Now they're what in a comma separated file, what happens is they are for one particular sentence, they are present in what particular line, one particular row. Now I need to like extract every word individually. So for this function, what we have is thing called string split sentences. So with that, I split every word, every like word of a particular sentence separately. And now sometimes I remove words there also, which I unlist words. Now there comes the most interesting part, the next one. So the next one, what is happening is, suppose if you know, right, there is somewhere in the internet, there is something called repository of positive words and repository of negative words. Okay, so now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to match those words, the positive word and the negative words, and with the individual words that I have. With the individual words that I have. So I'm trying to match the positive words with the words that I have. I'm trying to match the negative words with the word I have. So for one particular tweet, let's say a sentence. In one sentence, I have two positive words and one negative word. So I score that particular sentence. That is two positive words meaning +2 and one negative one meaning -1. So now that for that particular sentence, the score is +1. That is overall, it is giving some positive words out.
Hey, Sukrit, one quick question, Pratik here.
Yes.
So this positive words is like a vocabulary cloud that you've created, or I mean list that you've created. How do you know that some words are positive or negative?
Yes. There is actually particularly like set of words possible. I'll share the way I got those positive words, because it is basically a repository that is present in the internet, in which all positive words are present.
He's a bit louder, please.
So basically there is some repository present in somewhere in the internet, which I'll share the link with the class after the session is over. So basically, like, we have a repository of positive words, we have a repository of negative words. It is predefined that all the words of this repository are negative, all the words of this repository are positive.
So who has given this set of repository on internet?
So
Like,
I guess that guy does some research on text analytics of his own. He is some professor of some US.
It's a bit louder. Your voice is breaking.
Hey, Shantanu, sorry, just for that voice, if I could just quickly help you, it might be the problem. If you go to the speaker icon, which is there in your taskbar, right click on it.
Okay, just hold on. My functional keywords you are talking about, right?
Yeah, well, here, I mean, in your taskbar, right? I mean, the bottom on the bottom right-hand side, normally we have those speaker icon and everything, right? So if you right-click on it, and if you go to recording devices, do you see recording devices there?
Just hold on a sec. So I'll click here, and recording devices I'll click.
Yeah, yeah, and then you go to sounds. Sorry, you go to you go to recording tab.
Yes.
And you double click on external. You double click on microphone.
Yes.
And then you go to levels.
Right click. Just hold on a sec. I go to levels.
Yeah, you go to levels, right? Do you see microphone boost?
Yes.
What is the level right now?
It is 0. It's
0, right? So increase it to 30 or 40 decibel.
Okay, fine. Yeah, I increased it.
Yeah. Now it is significant.
Now.
Okay.
Yeah. Now it is completely all right. Please go ahead.
Okay. So now I guess the person from whom I got this repository, that is, the person is a professor in some US university. That person works a lot in this text analytics and creating all this data repository, because he has been using this words for his own research actually. We got these words from that person's website. I'll share the link with the class after the session is over. Does that answer my question? Like your question? Hello.
Hello?
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the person is from US, then the probably in the last tab, probably the comments are in Hindi. So how can he judge some words like it is positive or negative? Like in Indian scenario, if somebody is taking a research.
I totally agree with this fact. I totally agree with you that we'll be missing out some words. We won't be able to match the total words. Like we'll be missing some positive or negative words. Those are in Hindi. But provided the fact that I mentioned, like this is like a very crude way of doing text analytics. There is a lot of complex ways that have come up, right? So for that reason, people use some other techniques which I don't want to dwell now. So basically, so for that reason only, whenever a person comes, a client comes, is that we have this words. You need to do some analysis on that and tell me what is the theme out of it. So for that reason only, we use this approach. We even tell him that this is a very crude way of doing it. And because if you want some complex ways to do, the time taken will be a lot more. So as depending like balancing the time and the results that we are giving in, he's totally fine with this type of approach.
Okay.
I think let's move on. This perfect. I think it's okay.
Okay, so now what is happening is from the next line, like, so now I got a list of positive words and a list of negative words with me. So I try to match those words with the like the positive words, and I'm trying to match those words present with me with the repository of the positive words and the repository of the negative words. This is what these two words does, these two lines does that I highlighted. So after that, we try to score this. So we try to score this in the sense we try to see that is this word positive or is this word negative. And after that, you can see I have highlighted them, that if it is like depending on if this word is matching, it returns true, or if it doesn't match, it returns false. And after that, what we try to do is we like if it is true, we assign as +1. If it's not true, we assign it as -1. If it is not true, actually we assign it as 0. If you can see it here. So based on the sum of every tweet, we try to score them. So it is like, if you can see, score equals to sum of positive matches minus sum of negative matches. This is the whole score that we got, right? So moving forward, what we try to do here is, now I already got the chunk of tweets and the positive words. Now I need to somehow match them and see that is the sentiment positive or negative. Right? So now what I try to do is, I try to import the positive words. Now, if you remember, the previous thing that I was telling is, it is just a function, like a macro in SAS. The data is not there. So somehow we wrote the function. Now we need to input the data into the function. So now what we do is, we import the positive words, import the negative words, right? With that, what we try to do is, we try to see that there are some words that this person is yet to include, like the WTF, waiting, epic fail, mechanical, upgrade, depending on the context we do it actually. So after that, what we try to do is, we created already the tweet sets. With the tweets, what we try to do is, I create, so basically what we try to do is, we import the data sets again, and then we take them as tests. So there is a funda in R that there are some like data frame. We can import that as factors, as integers. So numbers are more or less as factors only, like text are as factors only. So from there, we also have Nestle thing coming up, the Nestle tweets. And after that, what we try to do is, we score the whole tweets. So basically, if we run it here, just hold on a sec. Let me run. I should have run one by one. That would have helped a lot. Yeah, just hold on a sec. Let me first run this one. Okay, just it's running actually in the bottom, if you can see. So now we have the negative, positive and the negative words. It's adding to these words are being added to the lists. See, it's reading to the 006 words here. This it's running, just give me some time. So in the meantime, we can carry on with the explaining what has been done. So after the tweets has been scored, we write them in like for one particular tweet, one particular sentence, we have a particular score, 1, 2, 3, 4, and after that we try to put them in an histogram actually, like a bar chart. So after that, what we do here is we import the data sets, the tweets that we got. So here it's working here. And after that, we score all the tweets and write them. Just hold on. See, it's running here.
We have written the score back to a CSV file.
Come again. Come again.
We have written the score back to a CSV file, is it?
Yes. So basically, this thing has been taken care because possibly in future, if you want to use it, so it is like just a precautionary measure. If in future you need this file, so it is like the practice that is followed. And after that, now the results part come up. So suppose in case of Maggie, what does the people say? See, the scores are more or less, okay, I'll just enlarge it. See, so the tweets, it is like the scores are varying from -4 to +4. But you can see that a lot of people, it is like 0 to -1 range here. So this is like the scores that is got, and this is the frequency. That is the bucketing that has been done. So a lot of people are saying negative about this brand as of now. So this is the result. We take it to the client, and as of Nestle, what is happening is, we just click it here and see the tweet range is like +3 to -4, but a lot of people are saying negative about this brand. So now the brand manager or the reporting, the CFO, he knows that the people have taken a hit on, like the sentiment of the people about its brand, about its company is negative in the company. So now he can say that, like, he knows that he has been hit. He needs to do something extra to get the feedbacks to be positive again. He needs to take some action. So this is like a crude way of text analytics actually. So if you guys have any more questions like that, this is the time, because I am done.
All right, excellent. So one very simple example, very good. Questions there? This histogram is based on which data?
This histogram is based on Twitter data actually.
Based on the Twitter data.
Yes.
First one, which one? This was the one. Have you created 2 histograms, Sutanu?
Yes, I created one for the Maggi brand and one for the Nestle brand actually.
Can you show the other one?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So this one is for
Maggi actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
This one is for Maggi, and the second one was for Nestle as a brand.
Yes.
And this is so you showed some right at the beginning to import the data in from Twitter, right?
Yes.
So I know you did not go through those things, but so essentially anyone can import the data from Twitter, right? I mean those data.
Yes. Anybody. So basically what it does is it has got some limitations on, you can't download for more than 3,000 tweets actually in a day. So because what Twitter does, it sells its data. They have got separate data partners to whom they sell all this data. So this is their business. Just from a research perspective, educational perspective, they have put a limit. You can't download more tweets than this. You can't download more hits than this.
Basically, you're saying that one can download up to 3,000 for free every day.
Yes,
3,000
yes.
tweets for free every day from.
Yes.
But
Yes.
for 2,000 more, then you have to probably go through their data partners and buy the
Yes.
data. Because,
Yes.
Okay. And say for example, request URL and all these commands are present in those libraries which were added under Twitter, right?
Yes. So all this package, this Twitter R package actually, this is the whole doing all the trick.
Okay, and that's the package which has all these commands.
Yes.
So similarly, I would assume similarly for Facebook there must be some packages. For LinkedIn, so there must be some packages.
Yes. So these guys have kept for the educational purpose and the research purpose, they have put something for free that you can download. But after that, downloading a huge amount of data, it will be their hit on their business. So they have kept that ceiling there in place.
Okay, so to download more than 3,000 or more than a certain limit, you have to reach out to the data part.
Yes.
And on these downloaded tweet data, I mean, you just created histogram, but we could have done anything else, any other statistical analysis that.
Yeah. So basically, I'll tell you. So the other things that can be done is like, suppose which is the most frequently occurring word, right? So you get a list of sorting the words based on their most frequency. From there, what we try to do is, you try to figure out there, some of them will be is, are, and, the, all those prepositions. You remove them and then you get the most significant word. So after that, when you get the most significant word, you try to figure out which are the most words, other words which are associated with this most significant word.
Got it. So basically, so you can also figure out the frequency and other details about all the tweets, basically.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So one question here, sorry.
That is basically a set of words they consider negative, right? Before they start the test.
So you're saying that in negative words. So can you repeat that again?
That is like a set of observations.
It's a bin. It's a set of observation which has these many negatives. So it gives you the frequency distribution, right?
Before I decided or a certain list of words they would consider maybe negative.
Oh, so that negative. So they did not decide. I mean, so there was negative words list. Remember, he matched. Yeah. So he downloaded the tweets. Then he said that from these tweets, he first removed those punctuation marks. Right? Then he said, okay, let's compare the tweet sentences or tweet words with negative word repository and positive word repository. And then for negative word, he said, okay, 0. For positive word, he said 1. And then he created a score. And Sudhanu, please correct me if I'm going wrong in the flow. So then he created a score for all the tweets. So he gave a score for all the tweets based on how many positive words it had and how many negative words it had. And then he plotted that thing on these two charts, two histograms. One was specifically for Maggie hashtag, and the second was for Nestle hashtag. Wanted to ask you one more small question, Sudhanu. So it's not taking care of sentiment. Say for example, if I say I like Maggie, I did not like Maggie much. Right, so I know there is one negative word not, but there is one positive word like as well, right? So how does it?
Yes.
So it's not.
I got you. So basically, you asked a very, very interesting question. Interesting question in the sense that is the problem faced by the industry right now, and we don't have much more sophisticated algorithms. Algorithms meaning we are unable to first of all understand sarcasm. Okay, we are unable to understand, because if I say, like, let's say, right, I say as an employee of a company, my company pays very well to write somewhere, right, and then I might mean that I am sarcastic that my company doesn't pay me, or I might be really I am happy with the pay. So it depends on the context.
Okay.
This is one.
Yeah.
So how do you teach this sarcasm to a machine? That is the problem faced by industries and researchers are working on it now. And the second thing that you mentioned, right? So I told you this is a very crude way of doing it. There is a crude way of doing it. I know what. So I'll give you an example to get a better result. So we did this analysis in possibly it was 4 days. We completed this analysis and gave it to the client. Okay. So now what happens was, in our competitor company was there, that they also did this analysis. They had somewhere around, they have created a forum. They launched a new drug in the market, and they opened a blog where they told the doctors to write about this drug, their feelings, what are the patients telling, and all those things. So now whatever the doctor said, they got it in an Excel file, and then what they did was, it was somewhere around 3,000 lines of sentences. So what they did was, they kind of read through all those sentences and said that is it positive or negative or not. right? So in this way, they took somewhere around 3 weeks to go through the entire sentence and complete the analysis. But by the way, their analysis was more accurate than us, right? Because they have read through everything. But the problem is it's not a scalable approach.
Yeah, makes
You
sense.
can't scale it up. So that is the reason that somewhere down the line we have to make some we have to make some adjustments. Can't help. So in the meantime, I'll answer this question that Anshu asked actually. So Anshu, we don't need to install the packages every time. Once we install it, it's there. If I close my R also, next time I open and I want to write the same codes, I don't need to install the R package again, Twitter R package, but I need to write this library sentence, library syntax every time. So basically this part is one time, but this part is every time. I guess that answers your question. And Pratik sir, do you have any more questions from there?
Any more questions, guys? No, I think pretty good. So, very nice. All right, good, excellent.
Okay.
So before ending the session, so I like to end with one more interesting story. It is like the people should know, like people are trying to enter the analytics field and what is happening right down here. So what is happening is same retail store itself. So this was carried out in an UK firm, UK retail firm. So now what happens is, suppose if we go to a Big Bazaar or some shops like that, we have our own preferences. Somebody likes bread, somebody goes there to buy biscuits, somebody is like standing in front of some pricey brand of, suppose I say some Rocho Ferrer and all those chocolates, and he doesn't want to buy, he wants to buy but he doesn't have money, like he's thinking it's a wastage of time, wastage of money and all those things. So what this UK firm did was, it had partnered with one of the analytics company and it had installed sensors in each and every shelf of the store. Okay, and based on that, what it did was, like whenever a customer is coming there, they have this customer's phone number and even a GPS like app installed in their phone, so they know that where is the customer going. So every time this customer goes in front of suppose a brand, suppose bread, a particular brand of bread, it is standing there. He's hello, Pratik sir, are you online?
Yeah, I'm connecting again. Sorry, just give me 1 second, okay? Just
Yeah. Yeah. So what this brand did was, so they had an app for their phone, because everybody has an app now. They installed some special location-based GPS feature also, and they had this sensors installed in every counter. Actually, if you go to Big Bazaar, every long, like suppose they have their biscuits, bread, butter and everything in one particular line, they installed every sensor in those things also. Like for one particular long stand, they had 3 sensors. So they know when is the customer going. He's standing in front of particular counter, like particular aisle they say, and then he moves off. He's not buying. He's thinking I'll buy, but he's not buying. So whenever a person is standing there in front of that thing for like 2-3 minutes, 2 minutes he's just staring, he's putting a lot of effort and he's been seeing the brands. Then the analytics engine that they made, they knew that there is a propensity that this guy will buy this item. So in this real time, they send offers to this guy's app phone so that the guy definitely buys it. So it's like, how cool is this stuff? It is like real time. They know that whenever the person is roaming about in the store, they know based on this guy's behavior, they are suggesting him new offers so that he buys more. And the first thing that I told, you go round and round about some Walmart store, you have got this app, and then you start getting offers on your app, because the analytics engine knows you are nearby to the store and there is a chance that you might come to the store. If you come to the store, you will buy. So that is the reason that it is like a lot of cool stuffs are happening in the industry, and there is a lot more problem to solve. So okay, I just got a question. Just give me a moment. Anshu, send me something. Okay, okay. So I'll read out the question. Anshu, is it fine? I'll read out the question. Hello?
Yeah, please go ahead, read it out.
So there was one coding part where we separated words. How R identifies that a particular word has ended. For example, there is DJ space R3 hab. Like somewhere around DJ, then space, then R3 hab. How will system identify words as ended, or a word is mentioned landed, or a word is mentioned landed? Will the system read landed, or after land word there will be separated? So basically, I know that it sounds very vague, but the thing is, if you have a word in which there is a space, right? So R will read the words as two words. In this case, the type of thing that we used, the type of algorithm that we used, it will read as two words, no issues. It will read two words, and it will know a word or ended or not. It doesn't know the word ended or not. So whenever it sees a particular tweet, I am taking a session now, right? So after every space, it will say that, okay, this word has ended. So if I'm saying that, so this is the thing, that R doesn't know a word has ended or not. It has been programmed in such a way that every time it sees a space, it says that, okay, boss, the word has ended. And now, so in the next phase, when we are trying to mapping the words, like every block of word, we are trying to map with the positive or negative words. So it might be that we are missing out some words. That is totally fine. But the gain point here is the fastness or the quickness by which we are able to complete the analysis. Suppose it is like, I'll give you the example. Suppose, if not Maggie, suppose some company like Unilever, right? It launched a product. Then it realizes that, okay, let me see that how is this product doing in the market, right? How is the company doing it? So then I can possibly make some changes in my strategy, right? So this whole, like, doing this analysis will be relevant only the first 3 or 4 weeks. After that, this product becomes an old product. So it is like depends on the time frame also. Suppose the more relevant example will be a movie, right? This thing is also done in Hollywood these days a lot. They are doing the promotions, they are releasing the teasers, right? They want to know that what are the people saying about my movie, how they feel about the teasers, how badly they are waiting for it, right? So now what happens is they want this result fast. They want this result fast so that they can say, okay, perhaps now the people are saying that, okay, this character, I'll say Iron Man, right? People are talking less about Tony Stark. They're talking about more about Pepper. But the shift needs to come to Tony. Okay, let's create another teaser where there will be, Pepper won't be even there. There will be only Tony and Iron Man. So now they can fix the strategy like this way. As you know that when they're releasing a trailer, after some days itself, within a very short span of time, the movie will get released. So they have a very small window. So that is the reason they are okay with that. They are okay with let go of some words, or like not knowing that this word ended or not, and all those things. All they want to see is the bigger picture. What is the total theme coming out of it? So that is the reason R doesn't know the word ended or not. And people are totally fine with it till the point that it is giving me out some actionable results. So did that answer the question, Anshu?
That's a good point, because there is no depth to what level of detail you can bring into analysis and into your analytics. But what if there is a constraint of time? The client has given you a very small time frame, or like business has a small time frame, so you can't actually put in so much of detail. As long as your analysis is able to generate, as he said, actionable insights. Good point, very good point, very good example, Sutanu.
Yeah. So any more questions?
Any more questions, guys? Hey, Sutanu, great seminar, great workshop. Thanks for this. I know we had a little bit of audio problem. I should have told you before itself. But overall, I think it was a very good session. We got to learn about a little bit about linear regression, very simple, and how do we do it in R. And very interesting thing, text analytics, some of the basic concepts of text analytics and how it is done, how easy it is to actually, in fact, to do this. Because if you want to actually, a lot of you already know a lot of modeling, so you can easily take the data out of Twitter and run some analysis by yourself as well. It's not a big deal. And we'll be sharing these codes with you all. Whoever has registered with us, you have a question? Yeah, what is the question? SEM analytics. Supply chain management analytics. Hey, Sutanu, I don't know if this is a good question for you or not, but do you have any idea as to what is the scope of supply chain analytics or application of analytics in supply chain?
Yeah. So basically, I'll tell you. So basically, analytics can be applied in every domain. So possibly, I'll tell you, give you a real-time example that I myself had to solve when I in my job. So basically, the problem here is, the problem came from a leading Fortune 500 technology company. They deal with computers. Okay, so now what they're telling is, I get an offer for delivering 10,000 laptops to one particular computer in Bangalore, I'll say. Let us take an example. Suppose Lenovo, right? So Lenovo, what is happening is they got some orders for 10,000 laptops they need to deliver somewhere in Bangalore, right? So what happens is, this Lenovo guys came to us telling that, see, we have some problems that we are facing in our supply chain. We said, what is the problem? He said that, see, all our plants is based out of China. So when it is based out of China, suppose a person sitting in Bangalore places the order. So when he places the order, there is a way that order is processed, right? So a laptop has a screen, LCD monitor, LED monitor, keyboards, RAM, and all those things. All those are manufactured in separate plants. Those are present in separate parts of China itself. So what he told us, see, this is a big complex supply chain thing going on. See, somewhere I am manufacturing LED screen, somewhere I am manufacturing keyboards, and after some time what is happening is, I am kind of putting them in one particular plant. I'm assembling. I have separate assembling plants. From their assembling plants, there is a plant in which I do all the checking. From their checking, there is a plant from which road transport goes on to the harbors, ports. From their ports, there is a ship, like a hold of ship, where I put my luggages, and then it comes to somewhere in India. So if you can visualize the whole thing, it's a very complex web going on. That is starting from one point, going somewhere else, this. So what this person was telling is, see, somewhere down the line, suppose a plant that is making RAM for me, 1 unit of that RAM malfunctions. So if that plant malfunctions, I have already projected that how many I have a deadline, how many units of computer I'll be delivering to this client of mine. So now what is happening is, he's telling, as this thing malfunctioned, I'll face some delays. Just hold on a sec. I'll face some delays in delivering the goods, but it might somewhere happen that, I can channel this extra traffic to some other plant that is also making RAM, but it has capability of scaling it up. So this is like a real-time problem that we need to solve through analytics, and this is a supply chain management problem, right? So it's like, if you can try to visualize the complexity associated with this problem, and it is all about supply chain. So it is so the outcome, what I want to explain is, see, the scope of supply chain scope of using analytics is huge, and everybody is using analytics these days because the process is already in place. So now all sorts of technological innovations, IT infrastructure having in place, everything is there, right? Now they want that extra edge out of it. So how do they get extra edge out of it? Analytics is the thing, because somehow I can do something with my data, and then suddenly if I can optimize this process, bingo, I got some results, ROI out of it. So that is the reason the scope in SCM is huge actually. I think I answered the question. If it's not clear,
no, it does answer. I mean, in fact, if I remember correctly, operation analytics, operation inventory control, all those things started with supply chain itself, Dell, Walmart, all these companies which had a very, very lean supply chain process, they relied on analytics. They've been relying on analytics for not just last few years, but a couple of decades now. So
Yes.
analytics has a lot of application in the supply chain operation and, refining it, making it better, more efficient, more real time in nature. All right, good, excellent, excellent, Sutanu. Thank you. Thanks for a very, very interactive workshop, and thank you everyone who were joined online. I'm so sorry for the little technical difficulty right at the beginning, but I think everyone asked very good question. Sutanu, you defended those questions also very well, and thanks everyone joining in here as well. Thanks a lot, Sutanu. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Pleasure is mine. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Guys, by the way, one last thing before you leave online.
Yes.
If you're registered, we're going to put a audio recording of this session on the YouTube channel. All right, so feel free to ping in there. All right.